What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the UFC Fight Night 131 or hashtag UFC Utica post-fight show. My name's Flying Brian J. Thank you so very much for joining me. What just happened, if you don't want to know, I guess, you shouldn't have even saw the thumbnail, but Marlon Magic Moraes just slept Jimmy Altera Rivera with a left high kick hospital in the very first round at 33 seconds. And for a long time tonight, I've been thinking about this analogy. The other day, I tweeted out an image of like 9 pills, and it says you can only take 2 of these. What would you take? There was one that was you could eat whatever you wanted and never gain weight for the rest of your life. There was one B, you could have super strength. There's one like unlimited money. And then there was one that was you'd always be happy. And I saw a lot of people choosing you'd always be happy, and I thought that was the worst choice you could possibly make, because without pain, there is no joy, and being happy all the time would hinder your ability to have self-preservation, because if you were in danger, you'd just be happy about it, I guess, and you wouldn't flee the scene. It would cause complacency. You'd always just, if you could be in a shitty trailer park and you just live there forever because you're happy already, and I guess if you're happy, you're happy, but it's just not the greatest situation, I don't think. I don't like life without achieving trying to achieve better things as I go throughout my life. And I'm relating that to this fight card, because a lot of the undercard was awful. Was 1 out of 5 in the post-fight grade. And without that pain, without that suffering that we endured with the kind of really shitty prelim card, not the Fight Pass prelims, but the FS1 prelims, they sucked so much. We wouldn't really have been able to enjoy what happened in the main event, where Marlon Moraes put Jimmy Rivera down. He feinted a jab. He's an orthodox fighter, so he feinted a jab and then came left high with that kick and then knocked Rivera down. Seemed to briefly knock him out. Rivera kind of regained consciousness as he fell to the floor, and Marlon put him down, put him away for good with just a teensy bit of ground and pound. Rivera, they said that he protested for a second, but he seemed okay with the stoppage. He shook Marlon's hand, and he was like, okay, yep, you got me good. And I believe that's the first time that Jimmy Rivera has ever lost via knockout, and that is true. He hasn't lost at all since 2008. This is his first loss in like 10 years, and it's his first ever via finish, and it came 33 seconds into the very first round. You guys, the viewers, as always, you're my co-host, and I thank you for being here, but I kind of planned on the little thing about needing pain to have happiness. Rob Amon's here. He said, happy Friday. The guillotine is sharp tonight for a few of our losers. Rob Amon's always here to cut the people that lost, get them out of the UFC. Wobbles asks, are we going to talk about Angela Lee? Yes, we are, because... And I'll just give you a teaser right now. If you're listening to the podcast version on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are, you can find this show. Angela Lee posted a picture, and there was a little bit of controversy about it tonight. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit, because there's not too much on UFC Utica that we really need to go over, but we'll get to that soon. Rob Amon says, I'm giving the fight card a 0 out of 5. Damn. Chad Cheeseman says, Smiling Sam Alvey is still smiling, and Magic Marlon Moraes is king. Oh my goodness gracious. There's not a lot of technique to talk about in this main event. The referee said, let's get it on. And then they came and they met in the middle and they circled for a second. And Marlon, you know, he feinted a jab, he feinted a right, and then whoop, bam, and it's over. That's every technique that was used right there. I might have gotten them a little bit wrong, because at the very beginning of the card, sometimes I'm not really paying attention. I'm sitting here, I'm just like drinking my beer, and then like, wow. Really surprised all of a sudden. Oh, did I say Angela Lee? She's the ONE FC champion, right? Andrea KGB Lee. I apologize for that. I do that all the time. I listen back on the podcast, and I have a lot of these flub-ups. Usually at the end of the card, I'm pretty pumped, amped, and so that's that. We have to talk about what's next for Magic. Then we're going to go over our WTFs of the card. I'm going to tell you how the MMA Maniacs, or it's the MMA Maniacs, finished on UFC Pick'em. And then we'll tell you how the underdogs went, and we'll move on to the card from there. So what is next for Marlon Moraes? he said that he wants the title. That's all he will settle for. That's what's next for him. I feel like that'd be completely fine with me. TJ Dillashaw is fighting Cody Garbrandt in a really soon. It's an immediate rematch at what event? UFC 227 on August 4th. So I think either Marlon could get the winner of that, perhaps. I mean, that's coming right up 2 months from now. And Dominic Cruz has a fight against... No, he was going to face Jimmy Rivera, wasn't he? What is Cruz doing? If Cruz doesn't have a fight lined up, which certainly he does, doesn't he? Why do I not know this? Hold on a second, my dudes. I should have looked this up before we started, but it gives me a second to see what you guys are saying. Rob Amon says he'd give Rivera Munoz next. Sure. Chad Cheesemo Cheeserville Cheeserton says Marlon Moraes, give him the title shot now. Well, honestly, if he wants the title shot, if he wants to wait for the title shot, then sure. I'm cool with that. Obviously, that was a huge performance against a guy undefeated in a super long time. Give him that. If he doesn't want to wait, I think that he would beat Dominic Cruz. I know that this is recency bias, but don't you think that Marlon Moraes could beat Dominic Cruz? And wouldn't you really like to see that fight? So I say Marlon Moraes versus Dominic Cruz in a #1 contender fight, and they'll fight the winner of Garbrandt versus Dillashaw. Wobble says that's the fight to make, and Dominic Cruz is going to beat Marlon Moraes. Ooh. So him and I disagree there, but I think that'd be a great fight. I like the stylistic matchup of it. I think that we should make that. And then Dominic Cruz, he wants to get back to a title shot. He hasn't fought since December of 2016. And I like that dynamic. Wobble says Dom would not get caught like that. I don't know. Dom has his hands down and he leans a lot. We didn't think that Jimmy Rivera would get caught like that. Most of the people on the MMA Maniacs, I got to figure out a better way to say it. The MMA Maniacs, they were saying that Jimmy via decision, and like it was almost unanimous. They're like, Jimmy via decision is the way to go. And it was a pick 'em odds tonight, and then Marlon Moraes comes out and just starches him. In fact, let me look at the best fight odds for what were the odds Marlon versus Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling closed at just plus 110. Marlon at minus 168. So, and actually Marlon closed at minus 112 against Rivera. Sam G. If Font defeats a Sunsao, give him an easy pass from Moraes. Mike Miles says Dom versus Marlon would be a great, but no KO. Might win, though. I would pick Marlon to win. Maybe not a knockout, but I would pick Marlon to beat Dominic Cruz. And if he was the underdog, that would work out great for the underdog play. So let's talk about the what the fuck of the card, and then we'll get into Gregor Gillespie and the rest of the stuff, not followed by, but what the F, then the blanket betting underdogs, and the UFC Pick'em finishes. So what is your guys' WTF of the card? I have some written down. One was the very first fight of the night was Jared Brooks versus Jose Torres. Jared Brooks hit Torres with a spinning back fist in the first round, was getting the better of Torres with his wrestling. I gave a 10-8 first round in favor of Brooks. Second round, it was really even on the feet, but Brooks was about to implement that wrestling attack again, and he went for a double leg against the fence. He picked Torres up, and then he decided to do a jumping slam, and Brooks knocked himself out. What the fuck? He was en route to an easy decision, it looked like, and then knocked himself out. What the fuck? And then in the not the very next fight, but then in Lentz versus Tamer, the younger Tamer, I believe, David Tamer, in the first round, Lentz was going for a body lock, drag you to the ground type of takedown against Tamer. Tamer grabbed the fence, poked him in the eyes, then grabbed the fence again and poked him in the eyes again, and the referee didn't say shit about it until between the rounds. And then in the third round, Nick Lentz once again was in on it. Same thing, body lock takedown. Tamer got away with another fucking fence grab. If I were the referee, I would have taken a point, and I've also given Lentz top position. What the fuck to the referee. Another what the fuck of the card goes to Rick Little. I feel like it always goes to Rick Little when one of his fighters is competing. And the third fight from the top, Walt Harris defeated Daniel Spitz with a TKO punch and elbows. It was ground and pound. It actually came from a big left hook upstairs that you could see, like, Daniel Spitz wanted out of there immediately. He backed up against the fence. Harris put him on the ground and was hitting him with some vicious ground and pound. During this ground and pound, Spitz's head was like in his own corner, and Rick Little was right there. And it was clear that the stoppage was coming. If you were watching the fights on TV, you could see in Spitz's face, once he got hit with the big left hook, it was basically over for him. But while he was eating this vicious ground and pound, and he's just turtling up, and it's clearly over, Rick Little was saying, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine, to the referee. Like, we've had this talk before. We had it at UFC 224, where Raquel Pennington's corner sent her out for a 5th round when she didn't want to do it. And we talked about corners being there for fighter safety, to protect the fighters from themselves. And Rick Little is out there doing the opposite. He wanted Daniel Spitz to get hurt worse. And to add to that, between rounds 1 and 2, Spitz was shaking his arm, and he's obviously his arm hurt. Something was wrong with his arm. And Rick Little was like, what's wrong with your arm? Why are you shaking your arm? Why are you shaking your arm? And he, in a way, he didn't say stop shaking your arm, but it was in a way like a parent would say to a child, why are you doing that? Knock it off. What the fuck, Rick Little? Daniel Spitz, he's a huge guy. He's got good footwork, good movement. Maybe not good footwork, but he moves a lot for a heavyweight. He's slender, a long guy for heavyweight division. Perhaps he should change camps. Rick Little is not the way to go. What the fuck, Rick Little? Mike Miles, weird slam, story of his life. Mike Miles was screaming at a screen to stop it. Probably, I've been looking at the comments for a second. I was just out on a tangent. I'm guessing he was talking about the Walt Harris fight versus Daniel Spitz. But what the fuck, all 3 of those. And I've told you guys that I want to be less of a curmudgeon. So even though a lot of this fight card, I was just bored out of my wits. So what the fuck could go to how much this card sucked. But so I always want to close it with a positive WTF. And I'm going to go with WTF. I did not see another kick or a leg knockout finish coming from Marlon Moraes. What the F? This guy is really surprising me. So what the F? Wow. Marlon Moraes. Talk about the blanket bets. Only one underdog won. And it was... who the hell was it? Ben Saunders against Jake Ellenberger. So we'll use that to talk about that fight. So the underdog bet was minus 11 point something units, which is just, I could pull it up to be really accurate with it. And of course, I always make these blanket bets 1 hour before the fight cards start. So whatever the odds are at that time, that's what I put them down as. It was minus 9.55 units. We only had 1 win, and it was Ben Saunders. Hopefully you can't hear the storm. Maybe you can. This time, so sometimes, guys, I've had issues with my stream crashing, my computer being weird. If it goes down this time, I'm not coming back because I'm in a tornado warning. And the weather is just, I'm by a window, and the weather is frightful. The weather outside is frightful. Oh, that was awful. Sorry for that, guys. Sam G, what the fuck moment is Ellenberger trying to play Saunders' clinch game? We use that again to talk about Saunders versus Ellenberger. I was thinking what the fuck at this time too. And I know that Jake Ellenberger likes to fight in close. So it was either Ellenberger was going to get a hook or an uppercut knockout of Ben Saunders, or this type of thing was going to happen. Very early on, they met like bulls. They clinched up against the fence. And against guys like Patrick Cote and Alan Jobin, Ben Saunders looked really slow with his knees, like the Muay Thai, the plum clinch knees to the face. He just looked so slow with them. His knees were not coming at a very good clip. But against Ellenberger, they seemed be fine. And I'm not saying that he got quicker. I'm saying that Ellenberger is more shot than Ben Saunders, and I think that's clear. The finishing sequence came. Saunders briefly had Ellenberger up against the fence. Ellenberger switched position. He was trying to go for some uppercuts. Did I say a bad word? Uppercuts. No N. In the clinch. And knees in the clinch as well. And he got the back to the center of the cage. Had Ben Saunders up against the cage. And Ben hit him with a knee to the liver. So it was a right knee from Saunders. No. It would have been a left knee from Saunders to the liver on the right side of Ellenberger's torso. Put him on the ground, and you could see in his face he was done. Of course, there's always follow-up ground and pound strikes in mixed martial arts. So those happened. And Ben Saunders, then in the post-fight interview, he was just elated. That guy was in a delightful mood. He said he could beat anybody, given the right day. He called out, he said that Eddie Bravo is a genius in the grappling department. He called out 10th Planet. And did he call out somebody that he wants next? He said he loves being a UFC fighter. I don't know if he called anybody out. Did he? I can't remember, guys. You tell me. Hey, if you haven't already, go ahead and thumb this video up. So there we talked about Saunders versus Ellenberger. Probably one of the highlights of the night. Let's talk about how the Maniacs, MMA Maniacs, finished on this fight card. If you guys aren't in the league already, let me link you to it. Copy link. If you're listening to the podcast version, again, I apologize for being rambly and mostly talking to the guys that are here live, but I appreciate you for listening to the podcast later on. Just hit me up on Twitter, and I'll get you a link to the Maniacs, MMA Maniacs, UFC Pick'em League. So in first place for this event was Armchair War 10R. That's a hell of a name, my dude. 10 for 12, 4 perfect, 4 bonuses. Second place was Team Alpha Male versus Everybody. 9 for 12, 2 perfect, 3 bonuses. Third place, Flying Brian J. 9 for 12, 4 perfect, 3 bonuses. Fourth place was Anto. 9 out of 12, 4 perfect, 2 bonuses. Fifth place was Red Viper 13. 9 for 12, 3 perfect, 2 bonuses. So be sure to join that league if you haven't already. What else did I say we needed to do? I think just talk about the rest of this fight card, I guess. Not a lot else to cover, so let's get into... is there anything else we need to cover? Not really. No, let's talk about the Andrea KGB Lee kind of drama from this evening that at times was more interesting to follow than the fights that were going on. And then we'll get into like our post-fight bonuses, and we'll cover anything that you guys want to talk about, including we can go over what's happening next week in Chicago, if you didn't know. That was a vicious thunder. UFC 225, main evented by Robert Bobby Knuckles Whitaker, rematching Yoel, the Soldier of God Romero. And then in the co-main event, we got Rafael dos Anjos versus Chaos Colby Covington, and CM Punk versus Mike Jackson. Anyway, so tonight, I don't know if it was a post from this evening, but it was surfaced that Andrea Lee, KGB Lee, posted a picture of her and her husband. They were having a lake day. And if you're on the video, her husband like had his fist like this. And he has a tattoo of a swastika near his elbow crease. And he actually has a the Gestapo, the SS, on the other arm, which, if you don't know, is the military police for the Nazis. Bad people in history, right? So it was revealed that this guy has these tattoos. Evidently, he got them in prison when he was there for manslaughter. He shot somebody outside of his home or something like that. And yeah, people were basically just going off like saying that she's kind of racist for not caring that this dude has swastika and SS symbols on his arms. He said that he got them 20 years ago, and they're like a symbol of what he's been through. They're not racist. And then Andrea Lee on Twitter, she deleted this tweet. She said, "Hey, we live with a black guy and an Asian guy. We're not racist." Like, oh yeah, that makes it totally fine to have a swastika on your arm. I saw people that were saying, "Oh, it's fine because he has a past." I mean, the swastika, it's not a very big tattoo, right? You could cover that sumbitch up with $50 worth of ink. I have tattoos. I'm not going to show you them today, but they're not that great, but they're not swastikas. Okay, I have Live with Laughter on my shoulder here with my grandpa's initials under him because he had a distinct laugh and he died when he was only 64 years old. A little too young. It was abrupt. Myself, my sister, and two of my cousins got the same tattoo in different places. On my torso here, I have a Joker, like off a playing card, and it takes up most of my side, and that's it. Anywho, the dude could get those covered up for very little money. So he's like, oh, it's part of my past. I'm not like, dude, just cover them up, and that would like end all of the controversy. And I don't get why people are defending it. Like, well, he got them when he was a kid, and he's not racist. That's great. Okay, cover the fucking up then. To me, there's no excuse to not cover him up. And he's clearly gotten tattoos after those tattoos, around them, but chose to keep them there. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that maybe it's not my place to be, but I think that obviously there were a lot of people upset on social media today about those tattoos and her like defending them, that she probably lost a few fans. She's a good-looking girl. She's got a fun fighting style. And there were only hardcores on the internet today. Not on the internet, but like on Twitter to talk about UFC Utica, because this is a hardcore fan type of fight card. The Twitter area, it's mostly full of hardcore type of fans. And so maybe she only lost hardcore fans, and then when she fights next and she has an impressive performance and she bats her eyes, maybe the casual fans won't know anything about it. But I think that she certainly lost a wide swath of some hardcore fans tonight for this stupid incident. It's just super weird. It was weird. Again, it's probably not my place. Rob Amon says the Roseanne of MMA fighters. Yeah, evidently he was probably on Ambien when he got the tattoos, right? I think Mac Malley on Twitter made that joke already, so credit to him for that joke. What's next? What else do we need to talk about? There's that drama. We haven't been here for very long. Do you guys want to talk about the next event, or should we go over our bonuses for this fight card? Actually, here's something that Jack Slack does on his podcast. He will give post-fight ratings for every fight. They call it Slackies. He give them like 2 out of 5 Slackies. It's basically how exciting each fight was. So normally we do that before the fight starts. I'm paused because there's some comments here that are befuddling. Sam G says people were saying Kane's brown pride tattoo on his chest is offensive as swastikas. The internet is befuddling. Kane has Mexican heritage, so brown pride is not offensive. Okay. Joe Wheat says he looks like a douche. Seems like it's not worth the trouble, but it's just a symbol. Rob Amon says Jake Ellenberger will be cut if he doesn't retire. I think that has to happen. Jake Ellenberger is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. His only wins are against Matt Brown and Josh Koscheck. Here's how his record goes since July of 2013. Loss, 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 win. Loss, loss, win. Loss, loss, loss. He has to be cut or retire. He should probably retire. 31-14 is a really lengthy mixed martial arts career. Joe Weed says about the guy with the tattoos, if he wants to explain it to everyone, then that's his choice. Yeah, we really shouldn't be getting into this guy's business. But it does make me less of a fan of hers, regardless of if I should be in that guy's business or not. I'm less of a fan of KGB Lee now. Actually, I'm not a fan now. I will not cheer for her anymore. And I don't have like an iron in the fire. I'm a white dude, I guess, so my heritage hasn't endured hardship. Is that right? Anyway, I don't have an iron in that fire, really. But I do find it kind of ridiculous. KGB Lee is an annoying nickname. And also that guy, never mind. I'm done talking about that. I feel like a jerk for even mentioning these things. I don't know how to properly speak on the issue without sounding ignorant. So I just won't do it anymore. We shouldn't have done it in the first place. Let's move on. So let's get into our bonuses for this fight card. I think post-fight bonus is going to go to Marlon Moraes, obviously, in my estimate. You guys got to give me yours in the comment section as well. Marlon Moraes. There's going to be no fight of the night, so we're going to go with Marlon, Gregor, Harris, and Saunders. Just the top 4 fights are all getting performance of the night bonuses because, like Sijara Eubanks versus Lauren Murphy, I kind of tuned out, didn't pay attention to it. David Tamer versus Nick Lentz, it wasn't that exciting, and I was upset with David Tamer for cheating on like 5 separate occasions. Before that, Belal Muhammad versus Chance Rencounter. A lot of people told me that I was being a curmudgeon because Belal Muhammad and Rencounter, they said, was more exciting than what I was saying. But here's my reason why I think that Belal Muhammad versus Chance Rencounter would get a 1 out of 5. If we're doing that post-fight grade that I started talking about and never got to. Is Belal Muhammad was the biggest favorite on the entire card. And once the fight started, it was clear to everybody watching that Rencounter was outmatched. He was not going to beat Belal Muhammad. From like the get-go, the guy was really stiff. He couldn't close the distance on the shorter Belal Muhammad. Muhammad was walking him down. Belal did just enough to get the decision victory, in my opinion. I felt like he could have turned it up and got the finish. And people are saying that because of Ramadan, that he didn't have the gas to do it. He's fought many times on Ramadan, and he's looked more impressive than he was tonight. So that's not, I don't think that's a great excuse. And also, I'm all about ebbs and flows. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we got to experience pain to enjoy the good. Or, in this scenario, if one person's winning, then the other person wins. The back and forth nature of the fight game is what really makes fights exciting fights. There was Belal took control and then just controlled the fight for the rest of the thing. And that's why I don't think it's a very exciting fight. Desmond Green versus Gleason T Bow. Desmond Green would jab, and then left straight, because they were both southpaws. Jab, left straight, and most of the time he'd land the jab, not the left straight. And then T Bow would try the same thing, miss on both of his, and Desmond would defend them, circle off, and then start the same thing over again. And that happened for 15 minutes. That fight sucked. A bantamweight fight, Nathaniel Wood versus Johnny Eduardo. Johnny Eduardo hurt Nathaniel Wood on the feet a couple of times in the first round. Second round, Eduardo was obviously a little more tired than he was in the first. Decided to go for a kind of a lackluster takedown attempt and got a Dar slapped on him. And that showed lack of fight IQ. So a WTF the card that we should have mentioned earlier was lack of fight IQ for Eduardo and Jared Brooks. We already covered Jared Brooks. So my performance bonuses are going to the top 4 fights of the night. Joe Weed can't remember a fight of the night, but he's given performance bonuses to Marlon Vera and Ben Saunders. Yeah. Rob Amon says Gillespie deserves someone right now on the edge of the top 15 next. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that. What I said should be for Gregor Gillespie next is we didn't even talk about that fight at all, did we? We skipped right over it. My bad, guys. Gregor Gillespie should fight the loser of Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis. I think the loser will be Anthony Pettis, and he will probably be out of the top 15 at that point. And if that's not the case, I would just seriously like to fast track this guy to the top, because he's just steamrolling dudes. So somebody like Evan Dunham would be great. Daniel Hooker would be fine. Daniel Hooker's got somebody soon, doesn't he? Against Gilbert Burns at UFC 226. So there are a lot of options. I mean, obviously, 155 pounds is the most stacked division in all of mixed martial arts. But Where is Gillespie on the Tapology rankings? He's at 38th right now, behind Jim Miller, Raging Cajun Johnson, Groovy Lando Venata. Francisco Trinaldo would be fine. Benil Dariush would be fine. A lot of good matchups for Gregor Gillespie. Rob Amon says the winner of Oliveira and Guida, which is happening next week, right? Yep. Fight Pass prelims. Clay Guida versus Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. Oh, God. That was a scary thunder. Joe Weed agrees with everything that we're saying. So now let me go and find the official post-fight bonuses. Okay. Let's see here. They might not even be out yet. Are we talking too fast to even get to the post-fight bonuses? You're kidding me. This doesn't seem right. I guess I'm going to stall. Yeah, the last tweet that the UFC sent out was just like a face, a blushing face that is the finishing sequence of the main event. That's it. Well, I think that we're probably pretty right on our guesstimations for post-fight bonuses. Like I said I would do, I'm going to give each fight on this card a 1 to 5. Because I said I would do it and I never got to it, and I don't like that I'm all over the place sometimes and I don't have a real consistency with how I conduct this post-fight show. Main event, 4 out of 5. Must watch. It's only going to take 33 seconds out of somebody's life, so if it's a 4 out of 5, I would say that you need to recommend it to your friend. Co-main event, Gregor Gillespie versus Vince Pichel. 2.75 out of 5. Tell them to watch it if they really want to see Gregor Gillespie. Like, if they want to see the future contender, watch it. Otherwise, it wasn't that exciting. Heavyweight fight, Daniel Spitz versus Walt Harris. 1.25 out of 5. The 2.25 is because it had a decent finish, and maybe they could see Rick Little being an idiot, but otherwise that fight sucked. The crowd was booing it like the entire time. Welterweight fight, Ben Saunders versus Jake Ellenberger. 2.75. Good finish. Fun post-fight interview. Meant nothing to any division. And the fight was not that entertaining up until the finish. Julio Arce versus Daniel Tamer. Arce got a rear naked choke submission victory over Tamer. At this point in the card, I wasn't paying attention. I don't expect you to pay attention. I'll go with a 1.5. Lightweight fight, Sam Alvey versus Jonh Volante. 1.25 out of 5. Women's, so the middle portion prelims, 1s all the way down. Bantamweight fight on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, Wood versus Eduardo, give it a 2.5. And flyweight fight between Jose Torres and Jared Brooks, I give it a 3.75. Tell your friends to watch that one. And that's it. Sam G says, UFC 226 looks better than UFC 225 from top to bottom, though UFC 225 is still nice. What do I think about that? I think that at that point we're splitting hairs, you know, especially when you consider how great, like not how great, but the level of post-fight enthusiasm we have for UFC Utica. I have very little. But I have a shitload of enthusiasm for UFC 225 and UFC 226. So both of those cards are 5 out of 5s in my opinion, or at least 4.5 out of 5. Just thinking about them in my mind's eye. I mean, when you've got Rashad Evans, Anthony Smith, Joseph Benavidez, Sergio Pettis, Clay Guida, Charles Oliveira on the fucking Fight Pass prelims, ooh-ee, that is some shit, man. That card's looking great. Joe Weed says that he went to UNI in Iowa. There were crazy storms around there. Be safe in Nebraska, FBJ. It's gonna get crazy. I should check the weather. Joe Weed also says that the short tamer, the older but smaller tamer should go to 135 pounds. He did look small against Arce. And he's not won a fight in the UFC. And also, maybe you didn't know this, but on the regional scene, Daniel Tamer got knocked out by like Emmerich Yambi or something like that. I think it was Emmerich. Anyway, so the smaller Tamer guy got knocked out in one of his regional fights, and his brother and the rest of his corner went into the octagon or into the cage and complained to the referee about an early stoppage, and the referee was like, fine, I'll restart it. I'm like, what the fuck? Wobble says hopefully the UFC comes back to Toronto soon. I was there when Max beat Pettis. What a great event. Huh. Well, fun times, my dudes. I think we'll probably close the show out, though, my guys. I'm really excited to do a top 3 fights to watch for Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero, UFC 225. I'm also going to be doing a beer pairing. I have not done one of those for the past 2 events, so I'll be back with a beer pairing suggestion for the next card. I hope that you guys will check that video out. Live, it won't be live, but right here on the MMA Mania YouTube channel. If you haven't already, subscribe. I think an animation will happen if you do. Maybe not. Yeah, and that's it. I apologize for talking too much about the swastika. I feel bad for doing that. I honestly do. I feel like I made a mistake doing that. So I greatly apologize for talking about that really at all, because I really have no place to talk. But yeah, so please accept my sincerest apologies. And I'll see you guys on the next post-fight show. Actually, I might be doing a pre-fight show for UFC 225, and I'll be doing a live stream like where I'll do play-by-play reactions for UFC 225 next Saturday. So thanks so much for hanging out, my dudes. And I'll see you later. Namaste.